Stop being so dramatic about it, Julia. Your ring gave Diana the trip she always wanted, my father Marcus said with a satisfied grin, leaning back in his favorite recliner. You should be grateful we could help your sister instead of letting that expensive jewelry sit around collecting dust while you recovered. I sat there on the couch in our family home in Charlotte, North Carolina, still weak from my 3-week hospital stay, staring at my father in complete disbelief. The bandages from my surgery were barely removed, and I was discovering that my family had sold my $25,000 wedding ring to fund my sister Diana's vacation to Thailand with her new boyfriend. My name is Julia Henderson, and I am 37 years old. I work as a marketing director for Bright Hollow Labs, a pharmaceutical research company. 3 weeks ago, I had undergone major surgery to remove a benign tumor from my abdomen. The recovery required an extended hospital stay, followed by weeks of rest at home. During this vulnerable time, I had moved back into my childhood home so my family could help care for me while I healed. What I never expected was that they would see my medical crisis as an opportunity to steal from me. You sold my wedding ring? I asked quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. The ring had been my late husband's final gift to me before he passed away from cancer 2 years ago. It was not just expensive jewelry. It was the last tangible connection I had to the love of my life. Diana bounced into the living room at that moment, her skin glowing with a fresh tan and her eyes sparkling with excitement. She was 29 years old, 8 years younger than me, and had always been my father's favorite child. Everything had always come easily to her, and when it did not, our father made sure to smooth the way. "Julia, you are finally awake," Diana exclaimed, rushing over to hug me. "I just got back from the most amazing 3 weeks in Thailand. The beaches were incredible, and the food was to die for. You would not believe the elephant sanctuary we visited." I felt a chill run down my spine as the pieces began falling into place. 3 weeks? I repeated slowly. Yes. Dad surprised me with the most generous gift. He said you wanted me to have an amazing vacation since I had been working so hard at the real estate agency. Diana's smile was radiant, completely oblivious to the darkness of what had actually transpired. My father's eyes met mine with a challenging stare. Diana deserved that trip, Julia. She has been struggling financially, and you have always had everything handed to you. It was time for you to contribute to this family for once. The cruelty of his words hit me like a physical blow, but something inside me remained eerily calm. I smiled sweetly at both of them, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction wash over me. There was something they did not know about that ring. Growing up in the Henderson household had taught me early that Diana could do no wrong in our father's eyes. My mother had passed away when I was 15, leaving Marcus to raise 2 daughters alone. Instead of treating us equally, he'd clearly chosen his favorite child and made no effort to hide his preference. Throughout high school and college, Diana received new cars, expensive clothes, and trips to Europe, while I worked part-time jobs to pay for my own expenses. When I graduated with honors from the University of North Carolina and landed my first job in pharmaceutical marketing, Marcus barely acknowledged my achievement. When Diana dropped out of college after 2 years to pursue various failed business ventures, he called her entrepreneurial and continued funding her lifestyle. The pattern continued into adulthood. When I married my husband David 5 years ago, Marcus complained about the cost of the wedding and suggested we should have eloped. When Diana announced her engagement to a man she had known for 3 months, Marcus immediately offered to pay for an elaborate celebration. That engagement fell apart within 6 months, but Marcus never mentioned the wasted money. David had been my refuge from the family dysfunction. He was a gentle, brilliant man who worked as a biochemist at the same company where I built my career. We supported each other's dreams and created a peaceful life together, far from the chaos of my childhood home. When David was diagnosed with aggressive lung cancer at 32, our world shattered. The 18 months of his treatment were the most challenging period of my life. I took family leave to care for him, spending our savings on experimental treatments and specialists. Marcus never offered to help financially, claiming he was still supporting Diana and could not afford to assist us. During David's final weeks, when I was exhausted and heartbroken, Marcus actually suggested that I should move back home after David's death, because Diana could use the company. David's final gift to me was the stunning diamond wedding ring he had saved for months to afford. He presented it to me on our 4th anniversary, just 2 months before his diagnosis. "I want you to have something beautiful that reminds you how much you are loved," he had whispered, sliding the platinum band with its flawless 3-carat center diamond onto my finger. After David's funeral, Marcus made several comments about how impractical it was for me to keep wearing such an expensive ring. He suggested I should sell it and invest the money more wisely. Diana had also mentioned multiple times how gorgeous the ring was and how she wished she could afford something similar for herself. Their interest in my ring had not gone unnoticed. During the past year, I had caught Diana photographing it when she thought I was not looking. Marcus had asked pointed questions about its value and whether I had it appraised for insurance purposes. The attention made me increasingly uncomfortable, especially as Diana's financial situation became more desperate due to her poor career choices and expensive lifestyle. 3 months before my surgery, I had made a decision that now seemed remarkably prescient. The tumor diagnosis had come as a complete shock during a routine physical examination. My doctor discovered an abnormal mass during my annual checkup and immediately ordered additional tests. Within 2 weeks, I learned that I needed major abdominal surgery to remove what appeared to be a large benign growth that was causing internal complications. The surgery would require a significant recovery period, and my doctor strongly recommended having family support during the healing process. Against my better judgment, I had agreed to stay with Marcus and Diana while I recovered. I knew their history of putting their own needs first, but I also knew I would need help with basic tasks during the initial weeks after surgery. As I prepared for the medical procedure, a nagging worry kept surfacing in my mind. Marcus and Diana had been increasingly interested in my financial situation since David's death. They knew I had life insurance money, savings from my pharmaceutical career, and valuable possessions including my wedding ring. The thought of being unconscious and helpless while they had access to my belongings made me deeply uncomfortable. 2 months before the surgery, I had taken a precautionary step that would prove to be life-saving. I visited a jewelry store in downtown Charlotte and found a cubic zirconia replica that was virtually identical to my real wedding ring. The fake cost $300 and was crafted so expertly that even experienced jewelry professionals would need specialized equipment to detect the difference immediately. I placed my authentic wedding ring in a safety deposit box at First National Bank under my maiden name, Julia Matthews. Only I knew about this account, and I paid for the box rental with cash to avoid any paper trail that Marcus or Diana might discover. The bank records showed the box was rented to Julia Matthews with identification showing my pre-marriage address. For 2 months before my surgery, I wore the replica ring daily. Marcus and Diana never noticed the switch because the fake was so convincing. I practiced removing it naturally when I washed dishes or applied lotion, just as I had done with the original ring. The cubic zirconia caught light beautifully and felt substantial on my finger. On the day I entered the hospital for surgery, I deliberately left the fake ring on my bedside table at Marcus's house. I told him I was too nervous to wear it during the procedure and asked him to keep it safe while I was in the hospital. He had agreed readily, and I noticed the way his eyes lingered on the ring as I placed it in my jewelry box. During my 3-week hospital stay, I had plenty of time to think about my family's character and what they might do with access to my possessions. Nurses frequently commented on how few visitors I received, especially compared to other patients who had family members checking on them daily. Marcus and Diana visited me exactly twice during the entire 3-week period, both times asking when I would be released and whether I needed anything from home. Now, sitting in the living room hearing about Diana's exotic vacation, I realized my precautions had been not only wise, but absolutely necessary. "I am so happy Diana had a wonderful time," I said sweetly, maintaining my calm demeanor despite the rage building inside me. "Thailand sounds absolutely magical. I would love to hear all about the elephant sanctuary and those beautiful beaches you mentioned." Diana launched into an enthusiastic description of her vacation, while Marcus nodded approvingly from his chair. She showed me hundreds of photos on her phone. Luxurious resort rooms overlooking pristine beaches, elaborate spa treatments, romantic dinners with her boyfriend Tyler, and adventure excursions through tropical forests. The level of extravagance was staggering, clearly far beyond what Diana could have afforded on her real estate agent salary. The resort cost $1,200 per night, Diana gushed, and Tyler surprised me with a helicopter tour of the islands that was another $800. We also went scuba diving with a private instructor and took a cooking class with a world-famous chef. It was like living in a dream. I calculated quickly in my head. 3 weeks at $1,200 per night was over $25,000 just for accommodation, adding flights, meals, activities, and shopping. Diana's vacation had easily cost $35,000 or more. How wonderful that you could afford such a luxurious trip, I said carefully, watching Marcus's expression. Well, I could not have done it without Dad's generosity, Diana replied, squeezing Marcus's hand. He said the ring money was enough to cover everything, and Tyler contributed some savings too. It was perfect timing because I had been feeling so stressed about work and really needed a break. Marcus's chest puffed with pride. Diana works very hard in real estate, and she deserved to have something special. Your ring was just sitting in a jewelry box doing nothing, Julia. At least now it provided Diana with memories that will last a lifetime. The casual way he dismissed my most precious possession as worthless decoration made my stomach turn. This was not just theft. It was a calculated betrayal during my most vulnerable moment. They had waited until I was unconscious and helpless before stealing from me. Where exactly did you sell the ring? I asked with genuine curiosity. Jameson Fine Jewelry on Main Street, Marcus replied proudly. The owner, Mr. Jameson, gave us $18,000 cash for it. He said it was a beautiful piece and would sell quickly to the right customer. I nodded thoughtfully. Jameson Fine Jewelry was a reputable establishment that had been in Charlotte for over 40 years. Mr. Jameson was known for his expertise in appraising valuable gemstones and had built his reputation on honest dealings with customers. $18,000 sounds like a fair price, I said carefully. I hope Mr. Jameson was able to find the right buyer for such a special piece. He said he already had a customer interested in that style of ring, Diana added. Someone who was looking for an engagement ring in that exact size and setting. It worked out perfectly for everyone. I felt a cold satisfaction wash over me as I imagined what would happen when Jameson's customer took the ring for professional appraisal, as most people do with expensive jewelry purchases. The thought of Mr. Jameson discovering he had unknowingly sold cubic zirconia as genuine diamonds made my smile grow wider. I am just grateful Diana had such an amazing experience, I said softly. And I am sure everything will work out exactly as it should. Marcus studied my face suspiciously. You are taking this remarkably well, Julia. I expected you to be more upset about the ring. What is done, I replied with a shrug. Besides, family should support each other during difficult times. If my ring could give Diana such happiness, then perhaps David would have wanted it that way. The mention of my late husband seemed to ease Marcus's concerns. He had always felt slightly guilty about his lack of support during David's illness, and invoking David's memory was an effective way to shut down further questions. I excused myself to rest, claiming I was still tired from the surgery recovery. As I walked to my old bedroom, I could hear Diana continuing to describe her vacation adventures to Marcus. Their voices were filled with satisfaction and joy, completely oblivious to the reckoning that was coming their way. Over the next few days, I played the role of the grateful, recovering family member, while carefully documenting everything about their theft. I took photos of Diana's vacation pictures displayed proudly around the house, recorded conversations where Marcus boasted about solving Diana's financial problems with my ring money, and made detailed notes about their spending timeline. Diana had returned from Thailand exactly 3 weeks after my surgery, which meant they had sold my ring almost immediately after I entered the hospital. The calculated nature of their timing was particularly cruel. They had not even waited to see if I would survive the surgery before stealing from me. I was so worried about you during the operation, Diana said over breakfast one morning, completely contradicting her actions. But Dad said you would want us to make good use of the ring money while you were recovering. He thought it would cheer you up to know I was having a wonderful time. Marcus nodded solemnly. I knew you would want Diana to benefit from your ring, rather than having it locked away unused. You have always been such a generous sister. Their ability to rewrite history and present themselves as thoughtful family members was breathtaking. They had genuinely convinced themselves that stealing from me during surgery was somehow an act of love and consideration. I called my office to check on work projects, using the conversation to casually mention my timeline for returning to Charlotte. My colleagues at Bright Hollow Labs expressed concern about my recovery and suggested I take additional time off if needed. I assured them I was healing well and would be back to full capacity soon. That afternoon, I drove to First National Bank to check on my safety deposit box. The real wedding ring sparkled brilliantly under the bank's fluorescent lights, its 3-carat center diamond catching every ray of light with stunning brilliance. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with smaller diamonds surrounding the center stone in a platinum setting that David had chosen specifically to complement my hand. I held the ring for several minutes, remembering the day David had surprised me with it. He had planned an elaborate presentation during our anniversary dinner, getting down on one knee in the restaurant to present it as a symbol of his eternal love. The memory brought tears to my eyes, but also strengthened my resolve to protect David's legacy from my family's greed. The contrast between my genuine ring and the cubic zirconia replica was subtle but significant. While the fake looked convincing to casual observers, the real diamonds had a depth and fire that no artificial stone could replicate. A professional jeweler with proper equipment would identify the fake immediately upon close examination. I returned the real ring to its secure box and drove back to Marcus's house, where Diana was showing neighbors more photos from her Thailand vacation. She had invited several friends over for an impromptu gathering, eager to share stories about her exotic adventure. Julia's ring made it all possible, Diana announced loudly to the assembled group. Dad surprised me with the most generous gift by selling it while she was in the hospital. He said she would want me to have amazing experiences rather than letting expensive jewelry sit unused. The neighbors looked uncomfortable with Diana's casual admission that she had funded her vacation with her sister's wedding ring, especially while I was recovering from surgery. Several people glanced at me sympathetically, clearly recognizing the inappropriate nature of the situation. "How thoughtful of your father," one neighbor said carefully, "to make such decisions during Julia's medical crisis." The subtle criticism in her tone went completely over Diana's head, but I caught the disapproving looks exchanged between several guests. Word would spread through the neighborhood about Marcus and Diana's behavior, adding another layer to the consequences they would soon face. I smiled graciously and thanked everyone for their concern about my recovery, playing the role of the forgiving sister while internally counting down the days until their deception would be exposed. 1 week after learning about the theft, I was preparing dinner when the doorbell rang insistently. Marcus was at his weekly poker game, and Diana was at work showing properties to clients. I was alone in the house, still technically recovering but feeling much stronger each day. Through the front window, I could see a man in an expensive suit standing on the porch, holding a small jewelry box and looking extremely agitated. My heart rate increased as I realized this might be the moment I had been anticipating. I opened the door to find a distinguished gentleman in his 60s, with silver hair and a deeply troubled expression. "Good evening. I am looking for Marcus Henderson. I am Harold Jameson from Jameson Fine Jewelry." "Hello, Mr. Jameson. I am Julia, Marcus's daughter. He's not home right now, but I can take a message for him." I kept my voice neutral despite my excitement. Mr. Jameson's face was grim. "Miss Henderson, I need to speak with your father immediately about a very serious matter. 3 weeks ago, he sold me a diamond ring that he claimed belonged to you. I have discovered that the ring is completely fraudulent." I gasped in apparent shock. "Fraudulent? What do you mean?" "The stones are cubic zirconia, not diamonds," Mr. Jameson explained, his voice tight with anger. "I sold the ring to a customer yesterday for $22,000. When she took it for insurance appraisal this morning, the gemologist immediately identified it as worthless costume jewelry. My customer is threatening legal action, and my reputation is on the line. I invited Mr. Jameson inside, expressing appropriate concern and confusion. I cannot understand how this could have happened. That ring was my late husband's gift to me, and he assured me it was genuine. Miss Henderson, either your husband was deceived when he purchased this ring, or someone in your family knowingly sold me fake jewelry, Mr. Jameson said firmly. I need immediate restitution of the $18,000 I paid, plus damages for the humiliation I have suffered with my customer. At that moment, Diana burst through the front door, having returned early from work. She froze when she saw Mr. Jameson, her face paling as she recognized him. "Mr. Jameson, what brings you here?" Diana asked with forced cheerfulness. "Miss Henderson," Mr. Jameson turned to face Diana. "I am here because your father sold me fraudulent jewelry 3 weeks ago. The ring you claimed was worth $25,000 contains nothing but worthless cubic zirconia." Diana's mouth dropped open in genuine shock. That is impossible. Julia's ring was definitely real. She wore it every day for years. "I have the gemologist's report right here," Mr. Jameson said, pulling out official documents. "Every stone in that ring is artificial. Your father committed fraud, and I demand immediate payment of $18,000 plus additional compensation for my damaged reputation." I watched Diana's face as the reality sank in. Her vacation, her exotic adventures, her bragging to neighbors and friends, all of it had been funded by worthless fake jewelry. The humiliation was visible as her confident expression crumbled into confusion and fear. "But Julia wore that ring constantly," Diana protested weakly. "How could it be fake?" Mr. Jameson's expression was unforgiving. "That is between your family and the police, Miss Henderson. I will be filing criminal fraud charges tomorrow morning, unless I receive full restitution tonight. Your father assured me the ring was authentic and valuable. He committed a serious crime." Just then, Marcus's car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I could see him parking and gathering his things from the poker game. He looked relaxed and satisfied, completely unaware that his world was about to collapse. Diana and I stood frozen in the living room, while Mr. Jameson waited by the door, still holding the jewelry box containing the worthless ring that had destroyed their credibility and financial security. Marcus walked through the front door whistling cheerfully, clearly having had a successful evening at poker. His smile vanished immediately when he saw Mr. Jameson standing in the living room with Diana and me, all wearing serious expressions. "Mr. Henderson," Jameson said without preamble, "I am here about the ring you sold me 3 weeks ago. It is completely fraudulent." Marcus's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, denial, and then growing panic as the implications became clear. "What are you talking about?" "Julia's ring was genuine. She wore it for years. Every stone in this ring is cubic zirconia," Mr. Jameson stated, opening the jewelry box to reveal the fake ring. "My customer discovered this when she took it for insurance appraisal. I sold her worthless costume jewelry for $22,000, and now she is threatening to sue me for fraud." Marcus sank into his recliner, his face draining of color. "But that is impossible. Julia, tell him about your ring. David bought it from a reputable jeweler." I took a deep breath, knowing this was the moment I had been waiting for. "Actually, Dad, I need to tell you something important about that ring." All eyes turned to me as I maintained my calm composure. 3 months ago, I had my ring appraised for insurance purposes. The jeweler mentioned how vulnerable expensive jewelry can be to theft, especially during times when people are incapacitated or hospitalized. He suggested I consider keeping a replica for daily wear while storing the original safely. Marcus's eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. Diana grabbed the back of a chair for support. I had an exact cubic zirconia replica made and began wearing it instead of my real ring. The authentic ring has been in a bank safety deposit box for months. I paused, letting the revelation sink in completely. I suspected that during my surgery recovery, someone might be tempted to take advantage of my vulnerability. The silence in the room was deafening, Marcus's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, while Diana made a strangled sound of disbelief. "You deliberately set us up," Marcus whispered, his voice filled with shock and growing rage. "You knew we would sell your ring, so you left us a fake." "I protected my most valuable possession because I know my family's character," I replied calmly. "I never told you to steal from me during my surgery. I never gave you permission to sell my ring. You made those choices entirely on your own." Diana collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. "Oh my God, we are going to jail. Tyler will leave me. Everyone will know we are thieves and frauds." Mr. Jameson's expression had shifted from anger to fascination as he watched the family drama unfold. "Miss Henderson, are you saying you anticipated this theft and prepared accordingly?" "I hoped my family would respect my belongings during my medical crisis," I said carefully. "But I also took precautions to protect something irreplaceable, my late husband's final gift to me." Marcus stood up abruptly, his face red with fury. "You manipulated us. You knew we needed money, and you deliberately left fake jewelry knowing we might sell it." "I left my ring in my jewelry box in my room," I corrected firmly. "You stole it without permission while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. The fact that you stole something worthless instead of something valuable does not change the nature of your crime." Mr. Jameson cleared his throat. "Regardless of the family dynamics, I still need $18,000 immediately. My customer is demanding refunds, and I have lawyers threatening lawsuits. This situation has severely damaged my business reputation." Marcus turned desperate eyes toward me. "Julia, you have to help us. Get your real ring, and we can sell it to fix this mess." I smiled sweetly at my father. "My real ring is safely protected where thieves cannot reach it. You made your choices, Dad. Now you get to live with the consequences." Marcus and Diana sat in stunned silence as their world crumbled around them, finally understanding that their greed and cruelty had led them into a trap of their own making. The daughter they had underestimated and betrayed had outsmarted them completely, and now they faced criminal charges, financial ruin, and social humiliation for their failed attempt to profit from her medical crisis. Marcus and Diana faced immediate criminal fraud charges and civil lawsuits when Mr. Jameson filed police reports the following morning, leading to their arrests and a highly publicized court case that destroyed their reputations throughout Charlotte. Diana lost her real estate license when her criminal conviction became public record, while Marcus faced professional sanctions that ended his financial planning career and forced him to declare bankruptcy to pay legal fees and restitution. Their friends and neighbors completely shunned them when the full story emerged, leaving them isolated pariahs who had to sell Marcus's house and move to a different city to escape the shame of being known as the family who stole from their daughter during her surgery recovery. Julia returned to her successful career at Bright Hollow Labs with a renewed appreciation for the importance of protecting herself from those who would exploit her kindness, keeping David's authentic ring safe in her possession, while building a future free from the toxic family members who had finally revealed their true character. As I admired the genuine diamond ring sparkling on my finger in my new apartment, I reflected on how this painful chapter had taught me that sometimes the greatest act of love is protecting what matters most from those who would destroy it, and that revenge served with patience and intelligence is far more satisfying than any angry confrontation could ever be.